acting different on people on camera, and they acting different.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much. It really means a lot to support. Anytime I put out any type of content, whether it be Reels, Instagram Stories, Instagram Lives, actually I haven't been there yet, or any content on YouTube, my long content on YouTube, it actually does necessarily well. So it actually motivates me to do our planned 2 episodes per week, and that's why we're going to get into this one. We're going to talk about the Knicks today, and to be honest with you, I think the Knicks are probably the worst run franchise when we're talking about big markets. So if you're talking about the Lakers, the Nets, the Warriors, et cetera, et cetera. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to do some context. Where are we today in the offseason? The reason why the Knicks are in conversation is because the Utah Jazz are now in rebuild mode. So they traded away Rudy Gobert. Part of the reason deals or blockbuster trades haven't taken place, like the Lakers and Nets, or the Nets and whoever, Celtics, whatever the case may be, is because the Jazz kind of changed the market. So if you guys remember earlier in the summer, they traded away Rudy Gobert, and I actually have the list here. They had Timberwolves receive Rudy Gobert, the Jazz receive Malik Beasley, Pat Bev, Leonardo Bomero, first round pick that turned into a player named Kessler, and Jared Vanderbilt. And they also gave away, let's count the pick, a 2023 first round pick, 2025 first round pick, 2026 pick swap, and then 27 and 29 first round picks. So essentially they gave away 4 first rounders and a pick swap. That was a blockbuster deal, but that's kind of the foundation of future trades. So what I mean by that is, if Kevin Durant is on the market, you're looking at this and you're saying, well, the Timberwolves only received 1 player. They gave away 4 or 5, and they gave away a slew of picks. So if you're looking at Kevin Durant, if we're looking at a Kevin Durant situation, the Nets want to own a team's entire draft stock and then wants at least an all-star player back. But I don't think that's necessarily true. And then, so now the Jazz are in full rebuild mode. They gotten this slew of picks for Rudy Gobert from the Timberwolves. Part of the reason also is I think the Timberwolves are making a rookie mistake. If you guys remember, Alex Rodriguez and his partners just acquired the Timberwolves. So I think what's happening is something like what happened with the Nets when they got new ownership and they kind of just traded for Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and whoever else. I'm not sure who that third person was. I'm going to say Deron Williams was on that team, but I don't know if they signed him or trade for him. That deal escapes me right now. But all in all, it's a rookie mistake. They're new owners. They're really excited. They pulled the trigger on this to say, let's go into the playoffs. And I think that's what happened here. So I want us to get into the segment of picks don't matter. And let's be honest here. The new lineup for the Timberwolves is going to be D'Angelo Russell. I don't know who their 2 is right now. That escapes me. But their 3 is going to be Anthony Edwards. Their 4 is going to be Karl-Anthony Towns. And their 5 is going to be Rudy Gobert, who, to be honest with you, can't play in the fourth quarter of really elite games. But hey, what does that mean? Well, the 20 and 23 seasons, those picks don't matter. The reason those picks don't matter is because they're not going to be lottery picks. They're going to be late first round draft picks. So if you're the Jazz, and then now we have a pick swap in 2026. So the Timberwolves get to keep that pick and get to keep a pick in the first round. And, it's worse off. It's whoever. So if, for example, the Timberwolves were in the lottery, you guys just Google what a pick swap is. Both teams keep their first round picks. The only 2 picks that really matter are the 2027 picks and the 2029 picks as well. Essentially, if you really get down to it, the Timberwolves traded away Patrick Beverley and Malik Beasley, but Malik Beasley is also going through his situation. So Patrick Beverley, Jared Vanderbilt, and 2 first round picks for Rudy Gobert. I think that's a legitimate deal. The Jazz want the same or want more for Donovan Mitchell. And I think Danny Ainge is smart enough to understand that we really gave away 2 picks. I mean, we really got 2 picks and 2 players back because we can't draft in the lottery anyways. If I'm the Jazz, I'm saying to myself, well, we want the same thing for Donovan Mitchell and we want multiple first round picks. And I think that's highly understandable. I think if you're looking at the Knicks, who are really the only suitor right now other than Miami for Donovan Mitchell, you're kind of saying to yourself, what can we squeeze out of the Knicks? So this is going to be a next segment because I kind of want to get into some Knicks slander here. And I want to say that the Knicks have an inability to stay relevant because they keep wanting to buy the success. Now let's go all the way back to the Carmelo Anthony deal. I think that's where it started for me, for my generation at least. That's the earliest deal for the Knicks that I can remember. Carmelo Anthony informed the Denver Nuggets that he wouldn't be re-signing with them when the season ended. He didn't request a trade. He did not request a trade. He just said, hey, look, at the end of the season or at the end of my contract, I'm not going to re-sign with you. The Knicks were suited to get Carmelo Anthony. And to be honest with you, it was probably a great deal for the Knicks only because it made them relevant. But this is the problem that they continuously have. In order for the Knicks to stay relevant, they've been giving away their draft pick. If you guys want to think about this for a second, Mitchell Robinson, who just signed an extension this summer or this past summer, was the first Knick to be extended off of a rookie contract in over a decade. And to be honest with you, I think it's really a decade and a half, but I don't remember the exact number. So I'm going to say in over a decade. So if we're putting that in perspective, the Knicks have been terrible in terms of the scouting department, or B, have been giving away their first round picks for multiple years. That's true in the Carmelo trade. I'm not sure what other trades they've done over the course of the last 7 years, but multiple picks that have value they've never seen the light of, or they're doing things like pick swaps maybe. So the Knicks have to be putting themselves in the position where they're saying the last 3 years were the first time in Knick history since I was young, since my generation was young, where they said, you know what, we're not going to do any big trades. We're not going to try to acquire any assets. We're just going to keep our picks, draft our players, and then whoever becomes great becomes great. They got RJ Barrett, they got people like Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin, even the Kristaps Porzingis era, even though I think a year after they gave away a pick. So the Knicks have been kind of settling in the idea of we just want to be like other franchises and have a little bit of normalcy, which I can respect. I still want to get into the Knicks slander only because the Knicks are such a poorly run franchise. Even marquee free agents have never considered playing there before. So you have players like LeBron. Melo was the only person to say he was willing to come here. When it was the Jimmy Butler, DeMar DeRozan, LaMarcus Aldridge sweepstakes a couple years back, they never considered it. Dwight Howard never considered it. You have a lot of players that wouldn't even take meetings. And then don't even forget about Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You have a lot of players with a market as big as the Knicks, where players can literally come here and change their lives forever for present day, future, and also in terms of legacy as being a Knicks, and they just opt not to do so. Remember, this past offseason, we had a new acquisition. I say we because I'm from Brooklyn, but the Knicks had a new acquisition of Jaylen Brunson. Me personally, I disagree with the Jaylen Brunson signing, only because Jaylen Brunson is 6'1". He's not great on defense. I think his arms are a little small, so he's not going to be great for perimeter defense. I do think he's a great offensive player, and I do think against the Utah Jazz, he played great. And you can even argue that he's the reason why why the Mavericks made it to the Western Conference. He's just that good of a player. Now, my issue with the Jaylen Brunson contract is this. Realistically, Jaylen Brunson is going to get paid $27 million. He's going to get paid $101 million for the next 4 years. If you average it down, you guys can do the math. It doesn't make sense to pay him that kind of money off of one playoff series, and especially given his size, especially in a Tom Thibodeau ran defense. And a lot of people are saying to me, my friends, I'll shout out to Alhaj, that the Knicks had to do this because they needed a guard. Perfectly fair, perfectly understandable. But just because someone is available, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should take it. If you're in the market for a car and the only car in your price range is a 2008, I don't know, let's call Mazda, for example, breaks down multiple times, doesn't mean you should buy it. You should just walk for the next year until an affordable car in your market is apparent. And I think the Knicks kind of fell into that. No, we need a guard. He's the best guard on the market right now, and he just had a great playoff series. And then I also think there's a lot of nepotism and just favoritism within the Knicks organization. I didn't actually know this, but Leon Rose and Jaylen Brunson and Jaylen Brunson's father and Leon Rose's son is the agent of Jaylen Brunson. So it's just this big sort of, I don't even know what to call it. Maybe I want to say corrupt, and I'm going to use the word like corrupt kind of system, kind of circle, where it's like you really need to know a guy to know a guy. You really need to know somebody to be part of something big. And my problem with Jaylen Brunson, the Jaylen Brunson deal, is how can you get a player who you're almost paying him max money. Max money is like $32 million a year. He's getting paid 27. So what, you shave off about $20 million off the entire deal, 5 years, $5 million a year. I think he's a max player, and I'm going to quantify him as a max player. How can you give Jaylen Brunson a near max contract and then say that to the Knicks organization that we're trying to compete? He's small. He should be getting paid really $18 to $20 million a year. That's a fair contract. He's getting paid more than Julius Randle, who actually took you to the playoffs. Jaylen Brunson's bare minimum expectation is to make the playoffs next season. It's him, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. As of right now, that team should be good enough to make the playoffs. If I'm looking at it, you had the Hawks, Cleveland, the Hornets, and the Knicks, all fighting for that 7th and 8th spot. The Knicks should be better than Cleveland. Ooh, actually, you know what? This is tough. I might edit this out. Anyways, now let's talk about Donovan Mitchell. All right, let's go through some of the scenarios. The first one is Mitchell. The Knicks only have two options. They can either give up RJ Barrett and maybe like 2 to 4 first round pick. Remember, like I said earlier, it can be like 2 pick swaps and then two first rounders, or they could give up players like Obi Toppin, Quentin Grimes, quickly, players like that, and that kind of pool, and then give up 6 first round picks as well. And remember, the only picks that are going to matter are those last 3-4 picks. So maybe the 2027, 2029 picks and 2026 picks if they do a pick swap instead. If I'm the Knicks, realistically, I'm saying to myself, I want to trade RJ Barrett. 2 reasons. The first one is RJ Barrett after next season is due for an extension. What is the market for a player like RJ Barrett, and what is he going to demand? If I'm RJ Barrett, I'm going to demand the max. Why? Because last season he averaged damn near 20 points per game. He shot efficiently, and time will only tell how he's going to play this season. The next is, what do you see? If I'm a Knicks fan, I'd rather give up RJ Barrett and 4 picks only because now I get to keep the core young foundation that the Knicks have. So if you're talking RJ Barrett, maybe Obi Toppin, maybe 4 picks, I think that's great because now you get to keep players like quickly Quentin Grimes, or maybe you could trade Quentin Grimes because he's younger. You want as much support as possible on the Knicks bench so that you don't have to worry about how do we support Jaylen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. And don't even get me wrong, if you're going to have Jaylen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell as a backcourt, you need a defensive-minded forward. And I really feel like having RJ Barrett there would be great because you can make him into a defensive-minded forward because he's younger, he's in shape, he's well built. But if you keep all your players, all your assets, you're still able to fill that spot. So you're still, I think honestly, you can get a small forward who plays really good defense, who can shoot a corner 3. I think that's accessible. What I don't think is accessible is if you keep RJ Barrett and then you don't have a bench and then the Knicks are losing 4th quarters because they don't have any support. I think it's best that the Knicks do trade for Donovan Mitchell, but I don't think it's realistic that the Knicks keep RJ Barrett. And to be honest with you, I think that's what's best for the franchise. And then last but not least, but let's just talk about expectations real quick. The Knicks have to, and I mean have to, no matter what option they pick, have to make the playoffs. You cannot get a player like Jaylen Brunson and or get it 2 players like Donovan Mitchell and Jaylen Brunson and not make the playoffs. It doesn't matter which option it is. The Knicks have to make the playoffs. You got Jaylen Brunson, you paid him $27 million a year, you got to make the playoffs. You got Jaylen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell and you lost RJ Barrett or you lost a bunch of picks and players, you got to make the playoffs. And the Knicks and Knicks fans hold the fire to their feet because it is not going to get any better if you guys keep showing up to games and keep being supportive. You guys have to hold these people accountable or else you're not going to get better. I think the Jaylen Brunson deal is one of those examples of just how can you be so careless? How could you play favorites, and are you really trying to win? I've been asking myself if the Knicks have been trying to win for years, and the answer I keep coming up with is no, because every single year they come up with stupid reasons as to why they want to do something, or stupid or have stupid takes or stupid deals or stupid trades. And it's like all you have to do is tell your fan base for the next 4 years we're going to take things slow, we're going to try to build through the draft, and we're going to try to acquire key players when we have cap space. But every year I feel like they have a new standard and then they pivot from that standard. Thank God I'm not a Knicks fan. Tell me guys what you think about this take. And like I said again, always comment your opinions. I'll respond to as many as possible. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next time. Peace.